All right. Hello, everybody. Thank you for coming out today. This will be an interactive workshop. So if you don't have a laptop, you can grab one here, I believe. That's what they're there for. There'll be some options. So if you did bring your own laptop, you might have one more option than what people are using with Chromebooks are using. But there's some stuff online that we'll be working through. We'll do some audio recording. And so if you brought your own, that might be a little easier than using the online option, but we'll work through it as we go. Okay. So the general idea here behind this workshop is to kind of introduce a little bit of the technology and the workflow that you could use if you're interested in making a podcast, either for your classes, for your students, or for public engagement purposes. So you're a researcher and you have a brilliant research idea that you want to share with the rest of the world. I'm going to make it a little bit easier for you to be able to do that. So the first thing that we can think about is what exactly a podcast is. So if you're brand new to this idea of podcasting, I'm going to give you a definition here, maybe. Here we go. What is a podcast? How many people don't know what a podcast is? Is everybody familiar somewhat with the term? Okay. And now in today's day and age, everybody probably has like 10 different favorite podcasts that they listen to themselves. So just to so that we're all on the same page, I have a definition. It says a podcast is an audio and sometimes video medium for creative content. Podcast creators upload podcast episodes, which are downloaded by listeners and listened to on their mobile devices or computers. Sometimes you don't even have to download them anymore. You can just like stream them or watch them online. Podcasts, initially, they might have been audio based, but over the years, they've morphed into multimedia, so it's common now to find a video podcast. And so we'll be working with YouTube, where we can share video and audio. But for our purposes today, you guys, I guess you can choose whether you want to make a video podcast or an audio-based podcast. It's up to you. But we'll walk through the steps to show you how to do that. As of today's April 30th, 2025, the #1 podcasts in the US, and I didn't have Canadian statistics, are a good hang with Amy Poehler and the Joe Rogan Experience. And these are from two different distribution sites. One is the Apple Podcast site, who ranked this as #1, and Spotify ranked Joe Rogan as #1. How many people are familiar with either of these? Okay, probably. I didn't know about the Amy Poehler podcast until I looked up the statistics, so this is new to me. But Joe Rogan is, fairly well known. He probably became very well known during the last presidential election in the U.S., where we had a lot of Donald Trump was on Joe Rogan himself. So, but he was pretty popular before the election as well. So let's just stay here for a minute. So these may be your favorite podcasts. I don't know. What podcasts do you listen to?
People listen to sports podcasts.
Which one?
I listen to sports podcasts.
Sports? Okay, cool. Yeah. Is there one in particular that you can?
Yeah, the Football Ramble, based out of England. They deal with English football, which is great because there's not a lot of English football coverage here. And I bring it straight to my phone and I listen to it all the time.
Perfect. Okay, that's a new one for me. I didn't know about that one. Anybody else?
I mentioned to you at lunch, Heavyweight.
Heavyweight, yeah, you mentioned that to me before, yeah. So do you want to say a bit about that?
Yeah, so it's a podcast by a guy named Goldstein. All of a sudden, I can't remember his first name, even though.
Jonathan Goldstein.
Sorry?
Jonathan Goldstein?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Jonathan Goldstein. And so basically, people approach him who want to find someone in their life that had an important impact, and he goes in search of them with his team, and either finds that person or finds what has happened to that person if they're possibly deceased. And he tells the story of when those two people knew each other and what, how they broke apart, and then their journey, separate journeys through life until they meet up again. And usually at the end, they meet each other.
Cool. So I'm learning about brand new podcasts. I love podcasts, and I thought I did a good job of searching for podcasts online, but these are two new ones to me. So I have two new ones to add to my list. Anybody else?
People I Mostly Admire by Stephen Levitt.
Which one?
People I Mostly Admire by Stephen Levitt. It's like
Oh,
an
okay.
interview podcast. He was one of the guys who did
Freakonomics?
Freakonomics,
Yeah,
yes.
okay, cool.
Yeah, so it's all interview for people who are like Nobel Prize winners or people doing something interesting, slice of life kind of stuff.
Right on.
Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. And again, another new one. I love how like niche podcasts are. And maybe these aren't, well, some of them might be more niche than others, but the great thing about podcasting is that theory, anybody can do it. You can put a podcast together, you can broadcast it. People can find it online, and before you know it, you might have 12 followers listening to your podcast. So we'll see what we can do here today. Anybody else want to share? Yeah.
Listening to a British history podcast.
Okay.
So that started in 2012, I think.
Okay.
Or maybe, yeah, been very ongoing for a long time. He starts at the beginning of time,
Oh, cool.
and he's now, last time I checked, in the Norman period.
Oh, nice.
That's the level of detail he goes into.
Okay.
10 years, and he's not even like,
So
anywhere close to modern
the
day.
birth of English is where you're at.
Yeah, exactly, right.
Right. Awesome. Okay. So that's a bit of an overview of all of some of the different podcasts that we listen to at the moment. You probably are familiar with different styles of podcasting, everything from straight up just interviews to kind of more narrative based, something that is rich in history and really researched, to other ones that may not be very well researched at all, but just kind of casual conversations and interviews with each other. I made a podcast, and it's called Some Stutter La, and it's a podcast about communication differences. It started off in 2020 or 2021 as specifically telling the stories or interviewing people who stutter, and telling their experiences, giving people an understanding of what it is like to stutter and to live with a communication barrier. And then we've kind of advanced into a broader, more disability-based topic, where we talk to anybody who might face communication barriers broadly. So I'm going to show you just a little bit of the most recent episode that we produced. It was with an interview with a first-year medical student who, as a person who stutters, and he's kind of talking a bit about what his experience is going through the hoops of med school. So I'll just give you a sense of what it looks like and how it's formatted, so we can kind of say, have a common template in mind. It's not something that you have to produce yourself, but it gives you a sense of something that can be done fairly easily, and I should say with no budget, which is one of the important things. Welcome to Some Stutter La.
Newfoundland and Labrador's first podcast.
It's about communicating differently.
I'm Paul.
I'm Laura.
I'm Greg. I'm a person who stutters. How's that?
Yeah, that's good. On today's episode, Greg has a conversation with David Liu. And David Liu is a young man who is a person who stutters.
David has stuttered most of his life. And David now is entering his first year as a medical student, and this is quite the accomplishment for a person who stutters. So, but he also sort of gives recognition that what has helped him is becoming involved within the stuttering community, and being involved with the Canadian Stuttering Association. That has helped him to sort of be at peace with he's stuttering, knowing that.
Okay, so that episode is 45 minutes. And at the beginning of each episode, we introduce the guests that we've put together an interview with. And we talk about some of the highlights of the interview, just to kind of give people a sense of what to expect for the rest of the episode. And then our one of our hosts, Greg, who was speaking there, he's also a person who stutters. He does the main interviewing with the guests. So that's generally the type of podcast that we put together is an interview based one. Okay. So, oops, I think I fell out of the. Turn this back on. There's a bit of a lag on the screen on the computer system here. So what we're going to do today is create something called, I just came up with the idea, came up with the term, a 30-second podcast. And the idea behind that is to give you something to work with that's not too onerous, something we can do within a short period of time that we have here today. And as we're doing this 30-second podcast, we're going to touch on a number of the issues that are involved with producing a more longer form, maybe 45 minutes to an hour type of podcast. So we're going to be focusing on issues of planning, production, which is a big area. We have like pre-production, post-production. In the abstract that I wrote for this workshop, I promised you guys a lot of things, and I was looking at that thinking, okay, we're gonna have to work really fast to do a lot of this stuff, but we'll get it done. We're also going to be talking a bit about managing a team. Normally, like you could produce a podcast on your own. It helps if you have help. It helps if you have someone who shares an interest in the topic that you're interested in and is able to put in some time and help you along with the work as well. We'll do some more of the technical recording and editing techniques. We'll talk a bit about audience building, creating an effective online presence, distributing your podcast, and then something that should happen at the very beginning is talking about who to invite and how to interview them, or what types of conversations you might want to have with your guests. So that's the larger goals of the workshop. We have a little bit of a workflow here. I think, oh, no, I want to, yeah. So this is kind of like done within the context of, so you're a researcher or you have an interest in a particular topic and you want to share your knowledge on that topic with other people. Okay? So this is generally under the framework of knowledge mobilization or public engagement. If you're not an expert in a particular area and you just have an interest in a topic, you're still welcome here to produce a 30-second podcast that introduces that topic to a larger audience. Right. So the podcast I showed you, Some Started Up, is we started about 4 years ago. During that time, we were able to get enough interest and support, and we were nominated for a London Center Award for people with disabilities. And last year, we also won the President's Award for community engagement. So I guess we could say that we're an award-winning podcast. Before we get into some of the more detailed, hands-on parts of the workshop, I want to know a little bit about what you guys are interested in doing. Okay, so we can go around the room and we can introduce ourselves. It'll just take a couple seconds. And what I want you to talk about or share with the group is what interests you. Why do you want to make a podcast? And what stopped you so far from making a podcast? Or maybe you've never thought about it before. So if it's a new idea that you're interested in exploring, then you can mention that too. So maybe we'll start with Chris over here on this side.
Sure. Hello, everyone. My name is Christina. I'm actually a Dr. DeDecker student. I'm very interested in linguistics, especially in second language acquisition. And I want to start a podcast because I'm a big fan of podcasts. I always had work my whole life, and like listen to podcasts is like a way to do something else while you are still learning something. And something that I think has been stopping me, it's time, maybe. Like I have been saying like, oh, I don't have time, I don't have time. But I know that it's like we are the ones that can make like the priority. If I really want to do it, I need to make the time for that.
Okay, thank you. Paul, I missed you over there. I didn't see you here.
Yeah, that's okay. I'm tucked away.
Okay.
Generally an IT guy, and that's an area of interest, particularly systems and systems architecture. And that's something that people don't think about a lot these days. And I've noticed that a lot of people, computers, what's inside of them, everybody's using laptops. They don't think about technology inside of them. What stops me is every time I go to look it up, it's time too, but every time I go to look it up, I can already find one about what I thought was a unique idea.
Yeah.
It's just so much out there already.
But we always need to do one more.
Yeah.
Need one more is from another person's perspective. Good, thank you. How about you guys back here?
Philip, I work here at CITL, Media Services Department, and we put together a little podcasting type of room.
Yeah.
Broadcasting, and I'm interested in podcasting for that reason. I'm curious because I see so much potential within the academic community for just podcasting.
Absolutely.
We can help facilitate that, and I have experience with recording audio in my job and in my past lives and other things. Yeah. And I always enjoy that. I always enjoy having fun with that. I like the idea of the informality of podcasting. It's not exactly a radio show.
Right.
It's not hitting all the marks like you do in a radio program.
Yeah.
And so there's a bit more of which I think a opportunity for just having unusual or more creative conversations, I suppose, just because of that. You want a format, but you need some restrictions. But I like that there is sort of no rules in a way. I find that inviting,
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So
There's a larger discussion about using podcasting in academics as academic research.
Yeah.
And one of the key, I guess she's a faculty member now, I think in Laurier or Waterloo in Ontario. She was talking about how podcasts they're very, like you said, informal, they're creative, they're amateurish, right?
Yeah.
An element of being amateur, and that's what's compelling about it. Like you could see Joe Rogan or very well polished ones with lots of money behind them, but you don't have to make something like that.
No.
And so this faculty member in Ontario was talking about how, well, what would happen to a podcast once a university gets a hold of it?
Yeah.
Would they professionalize it to the point where it's not interesting?
That's a good question.
Right. So what I'm going to suggest and encourage you to do is keep it amateurish and make it something that represents you, right? Rather than something that is, you can sell for $1 million.
I agree with that too. I think you lose personality when you polish it.
Definitely.
Polish it, all the personality out of it.
For sure.
Yeah, that's what I find. Sure.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Paul Hayward, I work with Philip on the CITL Media Services team. So similar, very interested in like the academic side of podcasting and that kind of stuff. But I've also just been obsessed with podcasts. Kind of give it up on like listening to music, and it's all podcasts now. So, but it's funny to your point that it's like you want to find that sweet spot between it being real and amateurish, but also you need a little bit of polish.
Yeah,
it's almost like you can tell the high end versus like someone just doing it on their phone kind of thing, right? So
right,
yeah. But I've never ever made my own podcast. One, because I guess I don't think I'm interesting enough, or like that. Like I wouldn't know what to say. Like you think about a really interesting podcast, it's like, man, how did they come up with all that, or like how do you talk about that at the length, or find the right guests or whatever? But many times I've been out with friends or just having a conversation like, man, this would be a good podcast. You know,
For sure.
it's almost like a tagline, but yeah, so it's interesting to me.
Were you there for our podcast, the test podcast that we did when we got the podcast rolling?
No.
Talking about chocolate bars?
Oh, no, I was in the next room though. Yeah,
Great podcast idea.
Cool.
Everybody has an opinion about chocolate bars. Yeah, what's your favorite chocolate?
What?
Chocolate bars.
Chocolate bar.
If you eat chocolate bars, and I eat chocolate. I've grown up eating chocolate bars. Everybody has an opinion about their favorite chocolate bars. And you can just go on, and we were talking about chocolate bars for like half an hour, and it was a great conversation because everyone had an opinion.
Yeah.
It was silly, but it was
That's cool.
everybody was engaged. Anyway, go ahead.
Food podcasting and web, or what they call vlogs are pretty popular too. So if if it's not chocolate, it could be poutine. Right. Paul, I guess you're more managing the computer there, yeah? Jamie, yeah.
So I'm Jamie Skidmore, and I'm just gonna move back here. Move it, it's great chairs. So I do have an idea for a podcast, and I am planning on instituting it with my class in the fall, but it's something that I've considered doing myself as well. And it would be doing theater reviews and analyses. And, I'd want there to be, a critical aspect to it. But also I would want to do it with someone like a comedian or something like that. The reason that's what stopped me from doing it personally was because I worked in the theater up until recently. I'm not doing any more theater other than puppetry now. And it's, I don't really look in terms of good or bad. That's not the way I would frame it. But, people take great offense to many things that are meant to be positive. And so I didn't want to talk about colleagues that I would be working with. And then more recently, since deciding not to do any more theater other than puppetry, it's been because I'm just, I do go and see a lot of plays, but I'm worried it's just going to take up a lot of my little bit of free time. But it might still happen. But I'm going to make my students do it for sure.
Sure.
And that's sort of that model, maybe without the comedian.
Sure. Good, thank you.
Mark, I also work at CITL with Philip and Paul.
Hey, awesome.
So pretty much everything that Philip said. We built this podcast studio together. That we're trying to get off the ground. We're trying to get some more funding for. To kind of finish it off. So I'm really interested in getting off the ground. I see a lot of potential in that for sharing ideas, but also we come up with new ideas of using it for evaluation. We had some language professors thinking they could use the podcasting as a way of evaluating foreign languages, or second languages. I also produced my own podcast for about 5 years.
Nice.
And so I had that experience as well. So I know the side of trying to maintain a podcast with a group of people. It's very difficult. It's like almost like a band, right? And things fall apart for no certain reason or anything. It's just like people get busy and it's hard to maintain. So it's hard to get started. It's hard to maintain. So so I have that experience as well.
When you find the right people with the band, that it comes together.
Well, I was gonna remark on that because I listened to that podcast, a few episodes of your podcast, and it was good because you guys were all friends.
Yes.
Or mostly friends. It seems like you were friends, and you started off the podcast and they're laughing and goofing around, like you guys are in a good mood right out of the gate, and it's like, and that's infectious. You see people laughing together, and they're not obnoxious. They're just being nice and laughing at each other's, personalities.
It became like our poker night sort of thing.
Nice.
Just as a way to get together and just chat.
And that made the conversation very free flowing and unstilted. It was great. That's hard to find, I think, sometimes.
And you have to be able to try and fail. Like you have to be able to, sometimes you're going to have a podcast that's just like, it's really, the conversation's not flowing. You find you're really critical of yourself but you have to just keep going with it and eventually you'll get better, right?
Failure is a big part of any creative project, right? And you learn from those errors, those failures. Yeah. Good, thank you.
Hi, Adrian Collins, Media Services, with this team over here. And we do podcasts at work, but on my own, I made a podcast with my friends that was very lo-fi. It's called Trivia After Dark. Very lo-fi.
Yeah.
Graphics were held up and these kind of things, so I kind of put all my production techniques behind us. We did everything kind of like real time and stuff like that. And, you know, we're on hiatus, things that challenging just in our personal lives, but it's still on the table. Might do a little bit of a cleanup with the audio and stuff like that we could do going forward. And
very good. So yeah, sounds like we'll have lots to talk about when it comes to managing a team. That like sorry, what's your name? Mark said it kind of like I never thought about it as being a band, but it is kind of like a band. Like there are people that make it move, and there are people that sometimes make it go a little slower than others. But you can't work without them because you have that chemistry, right? So we'll talk a little bit more about that. And I only have my perspective, but I'd love to hear your perspectives too. Hi.
My name is Nora. I'm a student at Faculty of Engineering, Master's Program, Civil Engineering. And this is my first experience. I have curiosity to learn about podcasts. How can I create something? Maybe I will work on it in my academic way. So,
great.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Jane?
I'm Jane. I work with most of these guys.
Yeah, got a lot of CITL. That's great.
I try to keep them busy. So I've never made a podcast. I've listened to a few here and there. And when we had our tech coaches, the first group of them, they started doing some podcasts and they were pretty good. And but our more recent group of tech coaches, it wasn't their thing. So that's a challenge. So it comes down to finding the guest hosts or whatever, to participate. And I don't know that creating a podcast is something that I would ever do beyond playing with it a little bit.
Yep.
Because I actually am very shy.
Okay.
And I lose my thoughts in my head and I can go off on tangents and I wouldn't be able to focus.
Yep.
So that's the truth.
I started out like you, like shy and kind of, and then I become a professor. So it doesn't make any sense. But I find using the podcast as a way to think through ideas is helpful too. Like you just record things, you put it out there, and then you edit it into something that makes sense. Because what happens behind the scenes is we just ramble on, and then we cut out parts that we don't want the rest of the world to see, right? So you can edit, and then the editing process is kind of like a learning process at the same time. If you don't have a topic straight out of your mouth, one will eventually you can assemble one together with good editing. So anyway, but thank you for sharing that. Did you have a question?
I was going to say, I always wondered how much editing actually is on like the professional podcasts. Right? I listen to Stuff You Should Know a lot, which is like an encyclopedic type thing. Two guys talking about any topic you can think of. They've got thousands of episodes. Yeah. I'm like, do they just sit down and let it fly, or I wonder how much actual editing is to make that final product?
Yeah, it's a good question. And probably everybody has their own workflow and their own procedure. Yeah. I was surprised, maybe I shouldn't have been surprised, but I've been to tapings of David Letterman and Stephen Colbert when he did the Colbert Report, and it's very scripted. From like, it's made to fit into that hour. So when you go to a live recording, it's that hour with very little editing, right? So that's, but they have the benefit of having writers, right? And they say, okay, this is going to happen at 5 minutes after the hour, then this happens, so that when you watch it on television, on TV at home, there's very little editing. And I mean, it's probably designed that way so that the editors don't have to spend 3 days putting it together. They can record it that day and then put it on at night. But I don't know, but podcasting is something that, because it is personal and idiosyncratic, it can be. It could be someone spends 2 minutes to 200 minutes editing, right? So For our own purposes, we try to, in the interviews that we've had, Greg interviews somebody for roughly an hour. And in previous seasons, we've gone up to, we're up into season 6 now. We would try to do as minimal amount of editing as possible. So, and usually the interview was good enough. We, you know, subjectively, I think, where we didn't have to make those decisions and say, oh, this shouldn't be in there. People are generally, once you get them talking, they tend to stay engaged and on topic. Most people. Paul, is there anybody online who has any comments or anything?
Nothing at the moment.
Okay. Oop, wrong way. Okay, so this is the workflow I want to introduce today. We'll start off with a chance to record up to a couple of minutes of audio, and we're not in the best room to record audio. So the results may be, you may have the HVAC system playing in the background, or chairs squeaking, or other people talking over. But we'll try to maximize the corners of the room where we can go to and record just for the sample today. Record the best quality that we can get. We've gone through a number of different online studios for recording our interviews. They're always done online, and we started off using Zoom. Then we went to something called Riverside. Right now we're using Squadcast, which is an online studio made by Dept. And Dept is another company. They bought Squadcast, but they're a podcasting / editing suite for online recordings. And we'll see an example of, I'll encourage you to make Dept accounts too. There's a free account that you can I think play around with an hour of audio or video, and it's a unique way of editing. It's text-based editing, so it transcribes your audio for you, and it gives you that transcription, and you go through and you say, I don't want that part in there, let me delete it from the text, and it deletes it from the video itself. Okay? So if you know how to, they say, if you know how to edit a Word document, you can edit a podcast. And it's pretty true. And so, yeah, so Dept, the larger company, bought Squadcast. And it basically works like Zoom. People have, they go into the studio, you can connect to people anywhere around the world. It records audio tracks, video tracks, and they're done separately from each other. So, and it does it in a way that if you've used Zoom, if you record anything on Zoom before, you probably, at least the way they used to do it was you could get pretty bad quality depending on the internet connection. With Squadcast and Riverside, it records to your local device first, and then it uploads it to the cloud, so that you're getting as good quality recording as that device is able to produce, without it being affected by bandwidth issues or internet Wi-Fi issues. So we can look at Squadcast, but we also, I have another, if you brought your own computer, we can download and use Audacity. And Audacity is a sound editor that's fairly straightforward to use. It's fairly popular, and it's free. So those are the things that it has going for it. The second stage in our workflow will be to take our 2 minutes and edit it, and we'll go through some techniques to do that. And as I mentioned, we can use Dept for that, or if you're working within Audacity, you can stay in the Audacity framework for that. And then finally, I'm really simplifying the workflow here, but the last step that we're going to look at today is uploading the result that you have to YouTube. Would be the final stage, somewhat final stage of releasing an episode. Is uploading it to YouTube and letting the whole world in on what you've been, what your interests are, or what your research is, and hopefully creating a community of listeners or viewers who will then engage with the material. So that's the general idea. We're going to start with setting up or accessing Descript. And if you use this URL here, web, or even just Google it, you can I'll show you the page that we'll start with. So this is in my my paid account. But when you first go to the website, it should look like, if you go, see, the main page, it'll look like that. Okay, so you can, I think if you click on pricing, or even just go to sign up, yeah, go to sign up, and then you can make your free account. And when you get in, it's fairly straightforward. You just do that password and email, and when you get in, it will look something like this, but probably it won't have any projects down under recent projects, but it'll start off with what you want to do. Okay, so I'll give you guys a couple of minutes to do that if you want to do that, and then we can start recording. Yeah, I think we can use Squadcast directly from here. If you say, what do you want to do? Under new project over here on the right-hand side, it'll give you a couple options. You can make an audio project or a video project. Let's walk through here. Yeah, it should take you to a room in Descript, which is based on the Squadcast. Oh, here we go. Okay, based on the Squadcast rooms, the Squadcast studio. Okay, so let's start from there. Go back to making your account, and once you've set up your account, we will go to the next step of going into the Squadcast studio. Yeah, I just skipped that.
I skipped.
Maybe you don't. Oh yeah, I was going to mention, there is, if you're interested, I think it's still available. There is a not-for-profit option or educational option in Descript, and I pay $5 a month per user, and that gave me quite a bit of transcription hours in Descript, and I didn't use them for a while. I was using Final Cut Pro for my editing. So they accumulated month after month, and I think I had like 25 hours after a while. But $5 per user for the educational / not-for-profit rate. It does have some limitations. I found out recently that I can't directly export my finished product to YouTube. I have to download it and then upload it back to YouTube, but there is an option. And if I was paying more money for it, I could probably use that. So there are some limitations to the not-for-profit pricing, but for $5, it's great. Okay, so if you have this part finished, just raise your hand, and so I know how quickly we're moving. Okay. Okay, so if you're still working on logging in or getting your credentials set, I'm just going to jump to the next step. But because this is more of the interactive portion of the workshop, if you ever fall behind or you're not sure where you are in the process, don't be afraid to put up your hand and just ask. Okay. But we're gonna click on the new project. So hopefully everybody has that option in their account now. So if you click on new project, You can pick video or audio. I'm gonna do audio for now, so it's, if anyone's using the Audacity, we're working from the same thing here, working with audio. So click on that. Then click on record. Okay, so this is where should take me to the Squadcast studio at this point. Oh, maybe not, but it's directly recording me. Okay. So let me. Okay, stop. Oh, it was waiting for me to talk. Okay, so now it's recording me. So this is what it looks like inside the script. So I'm going to stop this, and there should be a way to. It's probably going to transcribe it right away as well. But there was a way, the last time I looked, to go directly into Podcast. So let me just find that option. Or you can use that option that was right there. Okay, there it is. Yeah, so instead of going to new project and clicking on record, you can click on make a podcast, and then it'll bring up the option to go to record with others in rooms. Okay. Now this will only work if you have someone else to record with, right? I guess actually you can record yourself. Like you don't have to have somebody in the room with you. You can just record yourself in the room by yourself. But if you do want to link up with somebody else in the room, you could send them. There should be a way to send copy the URL for the studio, and then send it to them, and then they can put it in on their Chromebook and meet you in the studio. So my concern though is that we're going to have a lot of noise at some point. And if people are meeting each other online, we'll probably get like some feedback if you're sitting close to each other. So maybe this is a good time to find a space in the room where you can sit and record, or if you even want to go out in the hallway, just record the piece that you want to use for your 30-second podcast. And what my instructions would be to introduce yourself and pretend that you're a host of a podcast and say, this welcome to whatever my podcast is. And on today's episode, we're going to talk to so-and-so, or I'm going to tell you about the latest football game I watched. And you're going to critique every play by the players.
Tears at this point.
Right. So let's try this. We have, there's room out here, which you might even get. It's actually louder up there, so maybe stay in here. So you can work with somebody. If you want to interview somebody for your 30-second podcast, find a partner and team up with them and pretend they're your expert for the episode.
So this thing I can record and he can record, say we're on the same studio and he can record on his laptop and I'm recording on my laptop.
That's right, yeah.
Wow. Okay, cool. That's pretty nice.
He'll be recording on his,
Yeah.
you'll record on
Yeah,
yours.
but in the software, we'll put them together as if they were.
Only if you're in the studio,
Okay.
yeah.
The
So,
virtual studio.
yeah, the virtual studio.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
That's pretty neat.
Interesting.
Okay, we will do that.
And if you want to be your own host and your own expert, you're welcome to do that too.
Oh, jeez.
I'll show you. So I'll show you up here, and you can probably figure it out. If you go to the big podcast option, that gives you the option to go into a room.
And it gives you, I think I know what you were talking about. There's an invite or was there something?
Yeah,
like
you'll
that?
find an invite link.
Yeah.
Let me see what it looks like up here.
It's the what? Poached eggs.
Oh, that's fine.
Jamie Skidmore once again. With County Puppets. Today I'm going to talk about.
Oh, right, yeah.
Creative.
So you,
Maybe you can't do this with the free
This
version.
particular show.
see that?
Because it's based on.
I see that.
You see that?
That's right.
Oh, okay, so maybe,
How do I join him? So this is.
so you start your own and then, yeah. Just create-
Sure.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then you're gonna get you're gonna be able to copy the URL.
Oh,
You know,
There's only one puppeteer and one.
Yeah, there you go.
Like,
But
you have an option.
with
It's too long to.
and various atmospheric conditions and environmental conditions.
Jeremy over here. But at least we got started with some of the technical stuff, right? And if you haven't used a script before, now you have a free account. You have some audio you can work with, or maybe you haven't gotten to the recording part yet. But you can pick this up at home. But then we go back to the question of what's stopping you, and people have said, "Oh, I don't have time. Once I get home from work, I got to do this and this." So what I would love to do is keep in touch with you guys, and kind of like, start a little bit of a hub where we can brainstorm ideas and talk about recording technology, some kind of, just like putting together a podcast for your own purposes, right? So we can workshop things. If you have an idea for a podcast that's based on research that you're interested in, bring that to the group and we can talk about it. Can make suggestions on how you might format it, suggestions on editing, suggestions on building an audience online, the things that we didn't quite get to today. So if you're interested in that, my email is pauldd@mun.ca. So I'm Paul DeDecker and Paul DD. So if you're interested in that, just send me an email and we can put together a Google group list or something like that and keep in touch that way. Because it sounds like there's you're all very interested in this, and I'd love to see it grow. I'd love to see. I know MUN back in the day had what was it called, the public or the extension service, and classes were taught that way throughout the province. Things were done through, I think it was through radio, wasn't it? Or radio and television.
Sure, these guys.
Yeah, you guys probably.
Former.
It's where you guys started. It's like where CITL came from, right? Yeah. So I would love to see something like that happen again, where we're using podcasting technology to communicate all the way to Northern Labrador, or to the Upward community, or even down on New Gower Street, wherever people are. And if we can put our experts on the job, both technical and topic experts, but also bring the community involved as well, right? I'd love to see that. So if you share that same dream, I'd love to hear from you. And we'll end it here at this point. But if there's more to talk about, we'll be in touch in the future.
I clicked on the free version really quickly.
Yeah.
So I missed the benefits of the free version.
Okay.
For the scripts. What do you get for that?
The free version?
Yeah.
I think you get 1 hour of recording time, so you can record a whole video or audio, and 1 hour of transcription.
Okay.
Yeah, so it'll transcribe that.
So can you do multiple podcasts?
You can, yeah.
Up to an hour.
Yeah, you can set up like a file folder for podcast 1, another one for podcast 2. And then once you're inside, like I'm still learning to script, but when you're editing, you can actually make different projects inside of, like say if you're working on episode 1, it can be like the interview part, or there can be an introduction part. You can work on them independently and then put them all together. So it's a really, if you've ever used like an audio or video editor before, there's some similarities, but there's also a lot of differences too. So a working group where we share what we know and what we're learning about script might be helpful to us too. So thank you all for coming out. That's the end of the session today.
Thank you.
I think it's going to be we look forward to seeing what you all produce.
Yes.
It's going to be interesting. I hope you do share with people and podcast way. And I'd like to thank you, one.
Thank you. Oh,
You're not here.
yes, thank you.
And thank you very much. So
Okay.
be interested to see how it comes out.
Awesome. Thanks again.
Yeah.
Okay.